In this lesson, we're going to talk about ordering decimals. Now, if you find that this moves a little too quickly for you, you'll want to go back and review the decimal place value video. It will help. We're going to jump right in now and just get started. Whenever you're asked to order any numbers, it's going to ask you to order it from greatest to least or least to greatest. In this case, it's asking us from greatest to least. So what I need to do is start looking at my numbers to find out which is the greatest number and move from there, find the next greatest, then the next greatest, and then eventually come to the smallest number. To do that, the very first thing I need to do is look at my largest place value. In this case, it's the ones. So when I look at all of my ones here, I can see that each one of them is 0. So that doesn't help me at all. I now need to move to the next greatest place value. In this case, tenths. When I look at this, I can see I have 3 tenths here, 8 tenths here, 5 tenths here, and 6 tenths here. Now I need to figure out which one is the greatest, and then which one is the second greatest, the third greatest, and which one is the smallest of them all. So to start off, I know that 8 is greater than all of these numbers. So 0.8 is the largest tenth here, so it goes first. The next greatest number would be 6, so 0.6 would go next. The next greatest number is 5, so it goes here. And finally, 0.3 goes here as the least. Now these are ordered. Here's another example of a question that's asking from greatest to least. Again, the first thing I need to do is I need to look at my biggest or greatest place value, which would be the ones. So when I take a look, I have 1, 1, 1, and a 2. And I can see that 2 is definitely larger than any of the other ones digits. So I know 2 immediately, or 2.1 immediately, is my greatest number. So I'm going to move it right now. With the remaining numbers, because they all have a 1 in the ones column, I now know that I can just simply look at the tenths and they should tell me in which order they go. So you can see I have 2 tenths here, 4 tenths here, 9 tenths here. Now I need to look at 1.2, 1.4, and 1.9 and figure out which one is greater. I can see that 9 is greater than 4 and 2, so 1.9 will be my next greatest number. I then look at the remaining 2. I have 1.4 and 1.2. 4 is greater than 2, so 4 is my next number, and 1.2 would be the least value here. Now they're ordered. When I double check, 2.1, 1.9, 1.4, 1.2, that makes sense. So this is greatest to least. Here's an example of a question that's asking to order from least to greatest. The first thing that we always do is check the largest place value, which is the ones here, to see if there are any outliers or differences. So 4, 4, 5, 4, and 4 would mean that my 5 is definitely my greatest number. Already I know this because it's the only one that has a higher value in the ones column. So I'm going to move it right now so that I know that it's out of the way and I can just work with my 4s. Looking at my 4s here, I need to figure out which one is least and which one is the greatest of these 4s. When I look at 4.8, 4.2, 4.1, and 4.7, each of them have the same ones, so I need to now look at the tenths section. I can see I have 8 tenths in 4.8, 2 tenths in 4.2, 1 tenth in 4.1, and 7 tenths in 4.7. So I know that the least of these values would be 1, so 4.1 is my smallest or least number. Looking for the second one, now the least of these top 3 is 2, so 4.2 would go next. Then 7 is less than 8, so 4.7 would go here. 4.8 would fit right between these, and that would mean that these are now in order. So you can see that 4.1, 4.2, 4.7, 4.8, 5.3, when I double check, makes sense, so this is correct. Let's move through this example that's asking for least to greatest. When I look through my ones column, I can see that 1.48 is the only digit that, or the only number that has a 1 in the ones column. So I know that it's my greatest number. I'm going to move it right now. I have zeros in the rest, so now I have to go through them. I can see that I have 8 here, 2 here, 5 here, and 8 here. So I know that 2 is by far the least, so I'm going to move it. 5 would be next, so 0.56 would come after 0.2. I then have to take a look at my 0.8s here, both of them. Being that they both have 0.8, I then need to move to the next largest place value, which is the hundredths. I can see I have 6 hundredths here and 9 hundredths here. That would make 0.86 less than 0.89. So a 0.86 would go next, and 0.89 would be next. So when I take a look at these, 0.2, 0.56, 0.86, 0.89, 1.48, that makes sense. When looking at these three numbers, it's asking me to order them from least to greatest. The first thing I'm going to check is my tenths column in each of them. 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 7 tenths. So the 8 tenths is obviously the largest of the three numbers, so I'm going to move it immediately out of the way. Looking at these two numbers with a 7 in the tenths column, I now move to the hundredths section. I can see this one has 5 hundredths and this one has nothing there, which means that that's a 0. So 5 is greater than 0, making 0.7 the lesser of the two numbers. So 0.7, 0.75, 0.8. For the final two examples, I'm going to show you some larger numbers to show you that it's just as easy to do with large numbers as it is with small numbers. So when I take a look at this, I have 67, 68, 67, 67. I'm looking at the whole numbers here, not place value by place value, because it's easy to recognize that 68 is definitely the largest number of these, leaving me with my 67s. I then need to move to my tenths place value here. In this one I have 4, in this one I have 7, and in this one I have 3. So it's easy for me now to place these from least to greatest. 67.34 would mean that 3 is the smallest, so it moves here. I then have 4 in the tenths here, so 67.483 is my next smallest number, and 7 in this one, meaning 67.776 is my next smallest number. So from least to greatest, these have been ordered quickly and easily. For this final one, we have quite large numbers here, and when I take a look through, it's asking me to do greatest to least. I look at 996, 996, 997, 996, 996. So I look at these whole numbers first before I move into the decimals to see if there's any outliers, and I see that 997 immediately jumps out as the greatest number. Now I can look at all my 996s and move through the tenths columns to see which one is the next greatest. I see in this 996.735, 7 is in the tenths. In the next one I have 9 in the tenths, then 5 in the tenths, and 1 in the tenths section. So I can see immediately that 9 tenths is the largest of these, so 996.9 will be next. Then 7 tenths, so 996.735 will be next. Then I can see that 5 tenths is next, so 996.553 goes here. And finally 996.1 is my least number. So these have been ordered. Even though they look like really big numbers, it's quite simple to do. And that's it for ordering decimals. So if you are looking at these numbers and you're struggling with any, remember, just go place value by place value, and that will help you figure it out quite easily. Good luck.